Shame on you, George Wallace, for the wet ropes that bruise the muscles, for the bullwhips that cut the flesh, for the clubs that broke the bones, and for the tear gas that seared the eyes and the nose and the nostrils and the lungs and choked people into insensibility. This is not the American way.
During the 1950s and 60s, across the southern region of the United States of America, discriminatory tactics of literacy tests and poll taxes were used to prevent African Americans from voting.
I think I was probably 19 years old when I first voted. That was right after they had a lot of confusion about the poll tax, and I paid my poll tax that year and voted.
However, the people of Selma could not longer bear the oppression that occurred in their hometown. Joining with Martin Luther King Jr., the Student Nonviolence Committee, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, sit-ins at town halls and protests were characterizing much of Selma during these times. Nonetheless, these actions of bravery and chivalry were not met with peace offerings, but rather cracked down even harder. Under the control of Governor George Wallace and Sheriff Jim Clark, police officers ravished the black community within Selma with no control. Believing that the troubles of Selma would make national headlines, MLK focused his strengths in this county, hoping that it would force President Johnson to pass a Voting Rights Act. The reason that voting rights became such a pressing issue in Selma is because the county is deeply rooted in racism and segregation. Voting is the only right which they could have that would change their situation. It is the only thing that would change their governance structure to a government with equal responsibility to all rights of the people. It is also not the only grievance of the people due to unrepresentative governance of Selma County. Majority of African Americans were having trouble finding equal employment. Even if the people of Selma tried to better their situation through marches, sit-ins, and boycotts, they were met with termination, unlawful arrest, and brutally beaten. However, the African community was not only attacked by the police officers of Selma, but also attacked by racist groups of white men. This had occurred on June 12th, where voter registration worker Bernard Lafayette, 22, was beaten by two white men after he had agreed to help them push a car. Lafayette had 2 stitches in his head after being beaten. Through intimidation tactics of the sort, Governor Wallace kept a majority black population of 57.7% unrepresented. As of that population, only 0.9% could legally vote. The people of Marion County, no longer being able to tolerate such conditions, set out to march to the Marion Courthouse from the Zion Methodist Church on February 18th. As people began walking towards the courthouse, troopers told them to disband. However, the 350 participants decided to kneel in prayer, when suddenly the troopers attacked them with bill clubs and beat people wildly.
You remember what you were called? Nigger. What are you all doing, niggas? It's illegal. You're not supposed to be here. Next thing we know, we running because they come swinging nightsticks. Bam, 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 bam.
Many were hospitalized. Several hours later, a man named Jimmy Jackson was shot and beaten by officers looking for someone at a cafe. Since no one was willing to help in Marion, he was brought to Selma's Good Samaritan Hospital, where he later died.
Blood, and I pulled up his shirt, and that was a hole on the left side of his abdomen where the intestine had come out, about the size of a medium grapefruit.
The people of Selma, outraged by what had happened to fellow activists, planned to march to the capital, Montgomery, to illustrate the atrocities that were happening in Selma to the nation. However, King was in Atlanta during the first attempt of the march, trying to hash out legal things so that the march would go smoothly. In his absence, John Lewis led a large number of people through Edmund Pettus Bridge, where they were attacked on the day known as Bloody Sunday.
The attempted march was halted by state troopers. nation was shocked by the brutal attack.
Worried about his fellow activists, MLK rushes back to Selma with promises of future protection against such cruelty and decides to march once more to honor the brave men and women who marched on the 7th. This march became known as Turnaround Tuesday.
We are going to walk non-violently and peacefully to let the nation and the world know that we are tired now. Yes, sir. We've lived with slavery and segregation 345 years. We waited a long time for freedom. Yes, we are trying to remind the nation of the urgency of the moment. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time.
Although this march is different and peaceful, by the time that the African community and supporters of the cause reach the end of the bridge, a turning point within this conflict is created.
White ministers and civil rights workers reach the end of the bridge where the cordon of troopers stand. They are ordered to turn back. Dr. King confers with the police as the marchers hold their ground. He requests that they be allowed to pray. There are a few minutes of mounting tension. The request to pray is granted, and they kneel in the streets. Informants say that Dr. King turned his marchers at the behest of the White House, an arrangement that had been made in advance to avoid a confrontation that could only end in bloodshed. The troops and deputies stand stolid.
Although some criticize King for not pushing forward with the march onto Montgomery, his restraint earned him the full support of President Johnson. On March 15, 1965, President Johnson makes a televised address to Congress, proposing a voting rights bill.
The Civil Rights Bill was passed after 8 long months of debate. And when that bill came to my desk from the Congress for my signature, the heart of the voting provision had been eliminated. This time, on this issue, there must be no delay or no hesitation or no compromise with our purpose.
Now finally being fully supported by President Johnson and federally protected by the Army against Sheriff Clark and Governor Wallace, King and his companions can now complete the 8-day march to Montgomery with no trouble.
Tangible victories, the civil rights movement gave black Americans, after centuries of slavery, segregation, and second-class citizenship, a new feeling of inner worth and a...
The city of Selma. Tell them, Doctor. Today I want to say to the state of Alabama. Yes, sir. Today I want to say to the people of America and the nations of the world that we are not about to turn around. Yes, sir. We are on the move now. Yes, sir. Yes, we're on the move, and no wave of racism can stop us. Yes, sir. We're on the move now. Big, sir. And the burning of our churches will not deter us. Yes, sir. We're on the move now. Yes, sir. The bombing of our homes will not dissuade us. Did you hear it? We're on the move now. Yes, sir. The beating and killing of our clergymen and young people will not divert us. We're on the move now. Yes, sir. The wanton release of their known murderers will not discourage us. We're on the move now. Yes, sir. Like an idea whose time has come. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Not even the marching of mighty armies can halt us. Yes, sir. We are moving to the land of freedom. Yes, sir.